In a move that stunned even the most seasoned royal watchers, Denmark's Prince Joachim admitted something last year that few in the royal world ever dare say publicly: he was struggling to find his place in the family. Those 12 words set off alarm bells in royal circles, not just in Denmark, but across Europe. They hinted at more than personal dissatisfaction. They hinted at an unraveling bond within the Danish royal family itself. A rift between brothers, whispers of jealousy, resentment over roles, titles, and the invisible crown Prince Joachim was never destined to wear. And when he moved his family to Paris shortly after, royal experts weren't surprised. They believed it wasn't just for work. It was exile, with a diplomatic passport. To understand the heartbreak, the drama, and the whispered power struggle, we must first go back, far back, to the birth of Prince Joachim in 1969. Born to Queen Margrethe II and Prince Henrik, Joachim was the younger son, the spare, in the traditional monarchy model that favors the eldest. His older brother, Crown Prince Frederik, was always destined to become king. And while they were both raised with privilege, only one of them was ever truly prepared for destiny. Prince Joachim, from the very beginning, was given a shadowed spotlight, important, loved, but not quite central. He was raised with the trappings of royalty but none of the certainty that came with being heir. As children, the brothers seemed close, but palace insiders noticed the difference in how they were treated, how Frederik's path was clear and Joachim's was blurry. Over time, that blurry path became painful. As they grew older, Crown Prince Frederik stepped deeper into royal duty, groomed carefully by Queen Margrethe to one day lead the monarchy. He studied abroad, joined elite military training programs, and represented Denmark on the global stage. His role was always visible, always assured. Joachim, meanwhile, took on a more fragmented journey. He also served in the military, became a lieutenant colonel, and worked in agriculture and diplomacy, but he never quite settled into a single, sustained royal role. At times, it seemed even the palace wasn't sure what to do with him. And that's where the seeds of discomfort were sown. One royal commentator said, Joachim had all the pedigree but none of the direction. It's as if he was born into a job that didn't exist. That lack of direction, that drifting purpose, began to chip away at something deeper: his confidence, his sense of belonging, and eventually, his place in the royal ecosystem. In 2020, Joachim and his second wife, Princess Marie, made headlines when they moved their family to Paris, where Joachim had accepted a military attaché position at the Danish embassy. On paper, it looked like a professional opportunity. But for those paying attention, it also looked like a strategic retreat. Just a year earlier, tensions were already rising. In a rare and emotional interview with Danish media, Prince Joachim opened up, candidly, and for the first time, about his feelings of exclusion and loss of purpose. He admitted, on camera, "I find it difficult. I struggle to find my place in the family." That moment broke the royal protocol rulebook wide open. Royals rarely express feelings of alienation, certainly not to the press. But Joachim's words landed like a thunderclap. Suddenly, what was once just speculation, that there was a power struggle between the brothers, began to look like fact. Royal historian Jens Andersen described the relationship between Joachim and Frederik as polite but distant. Another commentator, Trine Villman, called it a Cold War masked by royal ceremony. Villman explained, Joachim wanted to matter, but every time he tried to build something of his own, whether it was a career in agriculture, the military, or diplomacy, it was quietly sidelined. He was told where to stand, what to do, and ultimately, where he didn't belong. That might sound dramatic, but look at the facts. In 2019, Queen Margrethe made another bombshell decision: to strip Joachim's 4 children of their princely titles, effective January 2023. The Queen claimed it was to give them more freedom to live normal lives. But Joachim and Marie were devastated. They weren't consulted. They weren't even warned properly. Prince Joachim told reporters in Paris, "We are all very sad. It's never fun to see your children being mistreated like that." The Queen's response: silence. So why would Queen Margrethe, often regarded as one of Europe's most respected and diplomatic monarchs, take such a step? Why now? Some believe it was a modernization move, following the example of other monarchies that have trimmed down their royal houses. Others, however, see it as a clear sign that Joachim was being edged out of the inner circle. In fact, many pointed out that Frederick's children retained their titles, despite being just as young. Was this about fairness, or about clearing the line of succession for Frederick and Christian, the next two in line? Joachim's exile to Paris seemed to cement that idea. He was no longer just a royal with a loose role, he was a royal on the outside, looking in. And for a man who once dreamed of helping to modernize Denmark from within the palace walls, the message was devastatingly clear: there was no place for him here. Since moving to France, Joachim has tried to craft a new identity. He's focused on military diplomacy, appearing occasionally at French royal-related events and speaking out about defense issues. Princess Marie, always elegant and diplomatic, has quietly supported his transition and shielded their children from too much media exposure. But make no mistake, this was not the life Joachim once imagined. This was not Plan A. This was survival. One royal analyst in France noted, "Prince Joachim may live in Paris, but his heart is still in Denmark. He still watches the palace. He still feels the sting of being pushed aside." At events where Frederick and Joachim are both present, the body language is telling. There are no warm embraces. No inside jokes. Just distance. And at Queen Margrethe's recent birthday celebrations, Joachim's body language revealed what words could not: a man who feels reverent but removed. When Prince Joachim married Alexandra Manley in 1995, Denmark rejoiced. A glamorous young woman of British-Chinese heritage, Alexandra was stylish, intelligent, and quickly beloved by the Danish public. The couple had two sons, Prince Nikolai and Prince Felix, and for a time, it looked like Joachim had carved out a happy, settled life. But behind palace walls, there was tension. Alexandra, who adapted quickly to royal life, struggled with the rigid protocols and the public expectations. Rumors of marital stress circulated quietly, and in 2005, the couple shocked the nation by divorcing. It was Denmark's first royal divorce in modern history, and it sent ripples through the monarchy's carefully curated image. While Frederick was making headlines for his own fairy tale wedding to Mary Donaldson, an Australian commoner who had captured hearts worldwide, Joachim was navigating single fatherhood, public scrutiny, and emotional instability. And that's where the comparisons between the brothers became even sharper. By the mid-2000s, Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary had become Denmark's golden couple. Every public appearance was a masterclass in modern royalty, poised, polished, and progressive. They were raising their 4 children with military discipline and royal duty in mind. Especially their son Prince Christian, who was second in line to the throne. Crown Princess Mary, in particular, won widespread admiration. Her elegance, fluency in Danish, dedication to charitable work, and perfect family image made her a global royal icon, comparable to Princess Diana or Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. But her rise coincided with Joachim's decline. Royal watchers began noticing the palace machinery turning faster and louder in Frederick and Mary's favor. Every event, every photo op, every budget announcement focused on the Crown Prince family. And for Joachim and his sons, it meant disappearing further into the background. In a court built on ceremony, even a seating arrangement can speak volumes. And then, in 2008, Joachim remarried, this time to Princess Marie, a French-born journalist and elegant counterpart to Mary. And while both women shared grace and charm, the public and press were not always kind in comparison. Where Mary was cast as the future queen, Marie was cast as the footnote. One of the deepest, and most painful, divisions between the two brothers came not from the crown, but from how their children were treated. As Prince Christian and his siblings were increasingly included in state visits, high-profile appearances, and media coverage, Joachim's children were quietly pulled from the limelight. Even more shocking was the difference in expectations. Christian was being groomed for monarchy. Joachim's sons were being groomed for invisibility. And then came the Queen's decision that changed everything. In September 2022, the royal household made a shocking announcement. Prince Joachim's 4 children, Nikolai, Felix, Henrik, and Athena, would lose their princely titles as of January 1, 2023. They would no longer be addressed as Prince or Princess, but instead as Count and Countess of Montpezat, a nod to Prince Henrik's French family name. The palace framed it as a modernization. The Queen, in an official statement, claimed the move would allow her grandchildren to live more normal lives, free from royal obligation. But Prince Joachim didn't see it that way. In an emotional interview, he said bluntly, "It's never fun to see your children being mistreated like that." Princess Marie added, "There's nothing modern about hurting children." The Queen refused to walk back the decision. The Danish media exploded, and suddenly, the tension that had long simmered under the surface was out in the open. It wasn't just about succession anymore. It was about identity, respect, and fatherhood. In the days after the title controversy, the Danish press split into two camps. One side defended the Queen's decision as smart and forward-thinking, similar to moves made by Sweden and the UK. After all, monarchies across Europe were shrinking their public-facing royal families to cut costs and modernize their image. But the other side called it cruel, and accused the palace of playing favorites. One headline read, "Why do Christian and his siblings keep their titles while Joachim's children lose theirs?" The answer was clear. Christian is the future king. Joachim's sons are not. But to many Danes, that didn't excuse the perceived coldness of the decision, or the humiliating way it was handled. Even insiders admitted Joachim was not told properly in advance. His children found out through the media. It wasn't just a blow. It was a public shaming. Perhaps the most revealing part of the whole saga. Crown Prince Frederik said nothing. Not once during the controversy did he publicly defend his brother or attempt to ease tensions. While Joachim and Marie gave emotional interviews, Frederik and Mary continued with business as usual, attending royal functions, smiling for cameras, and avoiding the subject entirely. To many, this silence was deafening. If there had ever been a chance to show brotherly support, to extend an olive branch, it passed without a word. And so the narrative of a royal power struggle took root. Not just of roles, but of compassion, loyalty, and basic family unity. Queen Margrethe has ruled Denmark since 1972 and is Europe's longest reigning monarch. Her wisdom, wit, and deep sense of duty have earned her universal respect. But even the strongest queens must sometimes choose between family and the crown. And Margrethe, critics say, chose the crown. The decision to remove her grandchildren's titles, without adequate warning, was seen as cold by some and calculated by others. But almost everyone agrees on this. It was a move made by a monarch, not a mother. Margrethe later offered a brief statement expressing regret that the decision had hurt her family, but she did not reverse it. It was final. Joachim, despite his heartbreak, remained outwardly respectful. But insiders say it was a breaking point. He felt erased, one royal aide said, as if the monarchy he had served his whole life had suddenly decided he didn't matter. Since relocating to Paris, Prince Joachim has tried to start over. He serves as a defense attaché at the Danish embassy. His children attend French schools. Princess Marie, fluent in several languages and a skilled public speaker, continues to represent Denmark at select events. But there's no mistaking it. This is a prince in quiet exile. His life is royal in name, but not in function. He lives away from the palace, away from royal duties, and, some would say, away from the family that once defined him. In Denmark, his absence is felt. But it's also tolerated. After all, the spotlight now rests firmly on Frederik, Mary, and Christian, the family seen as the monarchy's future. Joachim, once an essential part of that future, has become a distant figure. One Danish journalist wrote, "Prince Joachim didn't step back. He was stepped over." Thanks for watching and please don't forget to subscribe.